So not the case itself, Your Honor, but the pamphlet that was within the case along with the receipt. I'm objecting to the relevance of questions about that, not the case itself.
Okay, well, I think the pamphlet being sold with the gun is relevant, and its location in the home is relevant, so I'm going to overrule the objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I'm going to ask him about the pamphlet and ask to read excerpts of the pamphlet, and I know that opposing counsel actually asked Ed Wagrowski to do that, so I'm hoping there's not an objection, but I can lay a proper foundation if there is.
Okay, now I don't know if you answered the question about where he found the
He didn't. Thank you, Your Honor. What was your reaction to that?
To finding the pamphlet?
Yes.
So when I lifted up the phone and saw the pamphlet in there, I was shocked.
Okay, why?
As the pamphlet says on the front, it says Youth Handgun Safety Act Notice. Means they were on notice. They had to pick this up and move it to the back of that gun case and basically discard it underneath the phone.
Okay, and can you tell the jury what's the purpose of the law requiring that pamphlet to be given to someone purchasing a gun?
The purpose of it, do you want me to read from it?
First, I want you to tell me the purpose, and then I want you to read it.
So the purpose of the pamphlet is to inform the buyer of the firearm that juvenile gun violence is a major problem, and that safely securing your firearm will prevent that from happening.
Okay, and if you open it up, where does it refer to that?
So on the first page it says Youth Handgun Safety Act Notice, and there's 4 bullet points. The first says the misuse of handguns is a leading contributor to juvenile violence and fatalities. And the second one says safely storing and securing firearms away from children will help prevent the unlawful possession of handguns by juveniles, stop accidents, and save lives.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Your Honor, we've marked the pamphlet as, we're going to mark it as 168. I don't know if it was admitted previously. We did discuss it in other witnesses.
Okay, we're moving to the initial.
Yes.
Any objection?
No.
168.
All right. I want to go back to make sure, like the Caltech box, there is the same, these two like little plastic loops. What are those?
So those are designed by the manufacturer so that the case is capable of being locked, so you could actually lock your pistol inside that case.
Okay. When this was found, do you know if there was any locking mechanism in it at all?
There were not.
Okay. Were the 3 guns purchased by James Crumbley, including the SIG for his son, did they have to be registered?
So it's my understanding, based on prior investigation as part of the task force and as part of this case, that the handguns were required to be registered in the state of Michigan, yes.
And what's the timing on that?
So if you receive a pistol sales record from a federal firearms licensee in the state of Michigan, you have 10 business days to drop it off, or 10 days to drop it off at like a local county sheriff's office, your local police department. In this case, obviously the murder weapon was purchased 4 days before, so there was still some time left to drop that off. Obviously, that never occurred.
Okay. Were any of those handguns registered?
No.
All right. I want to go back to November 30th for a moment, and you said you connected with Lieutenant Marsban, and what was the purpose of doing that?
So the purpose of connecting with him at the time was to help in any way I could. He had started working on a search warrant from the Crumbley family residence, and as part of that, I offered my assistance with whatever was necessary.
Okay. Did you have to watch the surveillance video, or did you watch the surveillance video?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything notable about it?
Yes, there were 3 things that, in watching the surveillance video from the shooting, that I found relevant.
And what were they?
So the first was the stance that the shooter took for the shot that killed Tate. I noticed that he had some type of firearms training. It appeared to me that he did. I remember remarking to the people in the room at the time that that's what I thought. He had taking what we refer to as a shooter stance. His shoulders were rolled forward, his feet were spread. So that was the first thing that I noticed.
And what did that tell you?
I thought he had some level of proficiency with firearms, whether he had been to a gun range, whether he had training, or just been at least introduced to firearms in the past.
Okay. And then the second thing?
So the second thing was what's called a tactical magazine exchange, or what some other departments call a combat reload. So after the shooter moved through the school, and after reloading his first magazine, his firearm was completely empty, so he loaded a fully loaded magazine into the firearm and continued to shoot. After that, after firing several rounds, he ejected that magazine, placed it in his pocket, and then inserted a full magazine into the firearm so that he was fully loaded in the firearm.
And what's the purpose of that? Why is that significant?
So the way we're trained, at least for law enforcement shootings, is that if you're involved in an incident, you always want to have as much ammunition as possible. So if you have a brief moment where the gunfire is low in the gunfire, if you're in a gunfight, would be to eject your partially loaded magazine, insert a full one, but not to throw it on the ground and keep it for later in case you need it.
Okay. What's the third thing?
So the third thing was when the shooter came out of the bathroom and surrendered to law enforcement. Prior to them coming down the hallway, he took the magazine out of the firearm and he forgot to didn't rack it around out of the chamber, so they were still around in the chamber, I believe. But he took the magazine out and placed it on top of a trash bin, which I found unique. Not something that someone would do if they had just committed a mass shooting.
After viewing that, what did you do next as a result of noting those three things?
So my responsibility at the time was to help Lieutenant Marsman create a timeline for the affidavit. After noting those things, the following day, the day after the shooting, I began to start an investigation, thinking that the shooter had been to a gun range, contacted a gun range in the area, and confirmed he had in fact been to the range.
How did you know how did you pick that gun range?
It's probably the most popular gun range in the area and for driving distance from the Crumbley residence.
All right, and as a result of your investigation leading to looking at gun range visits, what was uncovered?
So at the gun range, we were able to, it was a gun range in Clarkston, able to locate surveillance video for 2 instances, as well as receipts for visits. I believe there was numerous visits. I believe it was around 8 total visits.
And were there any other tools in the investigation you used to determine visits to gun range and who was there and at what time?
Yes, so in addition to the actual records and surveillance video, forensic review of the extractions of Mr. Crumbley's cell phone, as well as his son's and Mrs. Crumbley's, put together more visits to the ranges as well as videos of those instances.
All right. I'm going to show, just one moment here. Let's start with June 15th of 2021. Do you know why that date's significant?
Yes, that was the date Mr. Crumbley initiated the purchase for the Derringer.
Okay, and the slides?
In People's 169. What are we looking at?
This is a Facebook conversation between James and Jennifer Crumbley on the 15th of June, 2021.
Okay, now time, it says UTC -4, 11:34 a.m. Is that the actual time?
Yes.
Okay, and can you read the text in blue? What does blue indicate? Which person?
Blue is Jennifer Crumbley. Green is going to be James Crumbley.
Okay, and can you read those texts?
Yes. So
Basic messages.
Jennifer Crumbley asks, talk at 12, and then Mr. Crumbley responds, taking Ethan to store at 12, and then Mrs. Crumbley asks if you get gun.
Okay, and then the next?
Mr. Crumbley.
He's answering her?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Crumbley responds, yes, and Mo, I believe that's supposed to be no. Jennifer responds, huh, and then James says, we paid for the gun and bought it, but can't pick it up till everything clears Washington, in parentheses, FBI. Could be today, tomorrow, or next day, they don't know. And then Mrs. Crumbley responds, gotcha, bring me those fruit punch things when you come to bring hay.
All right. The message about he had to wait, did you, through your investigation, did it reveal that that's consistent with what happened?
Yes.